Hello and welcome to Trainlang, our podcast. And today I'm really happy to be joined by Santi. How are you, Santi?
Hello. First time for me here. So I'm really honored to be here with you, Matthew.
Hey, it's good to have you with us, Santi. And, Stefan, the Grand Master, has told me many things about you. So I'm really excited.
Uh,
Santi.
I don't know. Were they good?
Yeah, all good. All good. Well, one or two bad things, but generally good. Generally good.
Of course.
So,
Such a
Santi, I think
gentleman.
it's the first time. Would you mind telling the listeners a little bit about yourself?
Well, I am currently living in Stoke-on-Trent in the UK. And the weather, summer, this is the UK. It's never too sunny. So, yeah, we will talk about the weather today. And I think it suits my circumstances right now.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Excellent. Well, listen, maybe through the pod you can tell us a few highlights about Stoke because I've never visited Stoke, so I'm kind of
I don't
curious.
think you have missed much. I hope nobody from Stoke listens to this podcast. Otherwise, they might be offended. But yeah, I think it's a very quiet residential area
Okay.
with the little shops and the little hospitals, and yeah. But it's nice to live here if you don't want to be excited about life. If you just want to keep it quiet, this is the place.
This is the place. Okay, good. Santi, I'm not sure whether that's a good or bad thing, but anyway, there we go. Fantastic. So you mentioned, Santi, we're going to talk about the weather, and we're going to
Yeah.
do that using a really useful tool in our language toolbox, modal verbs of speculation and deduction. Okay.
That sounds intriguing.
It does. It sounds a little bit difficult, but really it's quite simple now. Let's start off with one of the modal verbs we use quite a lot, must. And we want to remember always when we're talking about modal verbs, they follow with a verb in the infinitive. No? So I guess a common phrase is must be, Oh, must be, I don't know, must be hot today because everybody's got a fan, for example.
Yes, or must be rainy.
Right.
Must be rainy because everybody's carrying an umbrella, of course.
Right.
But I guess that you should know this before seeing the umbrellas. Yes,
There could have been a clue previously, no?
exactly.
Very good. But Sandy, when we say must, it's because we really feel confident, no? We're sure about the fact that we're going to state, so we use must. Although it's speculation, we're pretty confident about it, no?
Actually, this must shouldn't be here because we're not really speculating. Must really feels like it's something is certain.
Yeah.
So, but it follows the same structure. Must and then the infinitive afterwards.
Perfect, Santi. Excellent. Okay, let's talk about another modal verb, can or can't. So maybe we think that something is not true, basically the opposite of must. Perhaps we go to somebody's home, we're visiting someone's home at night, and all the lights are off. And we were expecting the person to be home. So we say, oh, they can't be home because there's no lights on. Can't be home.
Exactly. It follows the same structure as before. Can't followed by the infinitive. In this case, you use be, the verb to be. So same as the one before and the one after.
We've got a pattern developing here, Santi. Okay.
Yes.
Right.
It's going to be easy, this one.
It's pretty simple. No, that's good. That's good. Santi, might. Could you tell us a little bit about might? When could we use might?
Yeah, it's when something is possible, but we're not completely sure. So it can be used in a negative and also in affirmative sentences. Right. And we may have, actually, here I just used it. It's very similar to may and could. Right. Might, may, could. Yes. For example, if we have, I don't know, a little baby next to and she's looking a bit green, her face or yellow, we can say she might need to burp,
Right.
because something is possible, but we're not really sure, but we know that something is not right.
Right. Good example, Santi. Wow. You're a bit of an expert with kids, I think, huh?
Yes, yes. Now I'm taking care of my little niece. So,
Oh.
yes. Now I know a lot about changing colors from white
Very
to yellow to green.
fantastic, fantastic. Great, Santi, thank you. Well, we're just going to focus on those few that we've mentioned. Must, can't, might, and Santi also mentioned a couple of others there, could and may. Okay, very good. But we want to also highlight our theme today, which is the weather. And Santi, living in the UK, I'm sure you've noticed how often English speakers like to talk about the weather.
It's not only often, I think every conversation starts with the weather. Even if you want to talk about something important, you may want to consider spending the first few minutes talking about something for us Spanish people irrelevant, like the weather. But for them, it's not that irrelevant, I think, because the weather is very important here, I would
That's an
say.
interesting point you make. Is it perhaps because in Spain the weather is pretty stable, at least maybe
It
not in the
doesn't affect
north,
us that
but
way.
yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
we don't look at the weather app every day unless you live in Bilbao or in the north. But here, yes, you need to check the weather. Yes, for everything that you do. Well, you should know better. What am I talking about, Matthew? Tell us.
No, you're right. That's a distant memory, though. You know, I'm happy to be here in Spain and just
We're
enjoying.
swapping places.
Okay, Sandy. So that's a great point you mentioned. Even for important things, business, or I don't know, something important, we still often begin the conversation with a reference to the weather. So can you give us a little intro, a little maybe a question or a statement we could use, our listeners could use, Santi, to start things off talking about the weather?
Well, you could actually just ask, "What's the weather like today?" or "How nice is the weather?" If it's a surprisingly sunny day, you can just say, "How nice is today?" Yes,
Right, very good. Yeah,
it's
okay.
hot outside, right?
Yeah,
Etc.
excellent,
It's
excellent.
such a beautiful weather today, isn't it?
Right, very good, excellent. And we can then bring in our modal verbs of deduction. Maybe you see it's cloudy, and you say, "Oh, look, it might rain. It might rain a little bit later on today." Yeah, or perhaps the really dark clouds. I don't know in Stoke whether you get very dark clouds, Santi, but
Every day, even in
every
the sunniest day, there's a dark cloud looming over us.
oh man, you got to get out of there quick. You got to get back to the
Well, it's
promised
your
land.
country. But yes, in that case, once you see a gray cloud, we can say it might rain soon. Yes,
Right, very
because
good,
it's there.
very good. So there's a great connection between our modal verbs and the weather. Yeah, very good. Okay, Santi, that's fantastic. Thank you. Let's move down. We have what we've been looking forward to doing here, Santi, a role play. Okay, so I've got the feeling we're going to freestyle a little bit here with this role play as
And let's
well.
hope so.
Okay, the idea is we're looking into a pod, another pod, which is strange because we're already in a pod. But anyway, a language pod focused on the weather and modal verbs of speculation. Okay, so here we go. Here we go. Santi, we're going to be discussing modal verbs of speculation and deduction in the context of talking about the weather. Oh, Santi, what do you think?
Well, I'm very excited to dive into this topic today. It's more useful than we think because we will have to talk about the weather quite a lot. It's very popular to talk about the weather in some countries like the UK, but also in Spain. It's what is called small talk.
Right. Yeah. Very good. And if you're wondering what small talk is, check out the pod from last week, where we kind of dived into that expression. Good, Santi. Okay. So we could start with the modal verb might, and we've mentioned it already in the pod today, but situations where we could use might. I don't know. Any come to mind, Santi?
Well, when we expressing possibility or uncertainty, for example, you could say it might rain later today.
Right, very good.
If you see some clouds in the sky, or maybe you have checked the weather app, you could say with some degree of possibility that it might rain today.
Good, very good. And closely linked to that is could, no? So maybe we see, like you say, is the weather app, and think, oh, could be a good day tomorrow, could be an opportunity for a barbecue. Yeah, it could be a good day tomorrow. So
you sound hopeful. But it's summer, so yeah, it shouldn't be only a possibility.
Very good, very good. Now let's talk about must. We mentioned at the beginning that it's a stronger modal verb, no? Must. Could you give us an idea of how to use must, please, Sandy?
Of course. For example, if we're in a very, very hot place, like in a desert, or I don't know, I don't want to offend anyone, but if it's a very hot place, you can say it must be hot in there. For example, in Sevilla, in the middle of summer, without air conditioning, in that little room, you can say positively, it must be hot in there.
Do you know, Santi, I think Sevilla is one of the hottest places I visited. Unbelievable. It's so oppressive.
It's also because of the humidity. It's very humid because of the river, and 1 + 1 is 2. Yes, very, very hot.
Okay, great, good. Santi, let's turn our attention to should, another one of our modal verbs. We can use that to talk about a high degree of probability. Okay, so if you wake up there, Santi, in Stoke, and you open the curtains, and it's a beautiful morning, the birds are singing, the sun is shining. Give us an example with should, please.
Yes, we could say it should be a beautiful day for a picnic or a barbecue, whatever you feel like, but it should be a beautiful day today.
Of course, we know if you're in the UK, it's probably going to rain a little bit later on. But anyway,
yes.
It should be. Okay, good. And Santi, any others we can use? We've talked about should.
No, of course. We could also use likely and probably, which are not modal verbs, but can also use to discuss the weather. For example, we could say it's likely to be windy by the coast, or it's probably going to rain later.
Fantastic. That's great, Santi. Thank you. Well, listen, we've covered quite a few in the pod today, and by using them, it can make our conversation more engaging, more interesting. And the great thing with modal verbs is they're really easy to use, aren't they? All you got to remember is to attach onto it a base verb or the verb in the infinitive, and that's it. Great. Sandy, thank you very much. That's been great to have you on board.
Yeah, the pleasure has been mine, of course.
Sandy, if our listeners are thinking, hey, I like this, I'd like to learn some English, what would you recommend? Where can they go to do that?
Well, the best option out there is to use Trainlang. We're offering very good courses for learning English, and they can access on the website www.campus.trainlang.com, and they will find more information.
Fantastic. And if you get in quick, but you've got to be quick, if you get in quick, you can book a class with Santi, but they are going fast. So
yes.
Do it. Santi, thank you very much.
Thank you, Matthew. See you next time.
See you next time.
Bye.
Bye.